Mr. Aiden, Mr. Battle,
Here.
Mr. Hubbard, Mr. Anderko,
Here.
Director Panowski,
Here.
Mayor Brubaker's here, Mr. Tedrow.
Here.
Good. I'd like to entertain a motion for the minutes of December 5, 2023 as presented. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Moved by Mr. Tedrow. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Anderko. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And Director Panowski and I will be abstaining as we were not here for that meeting. Motion carried. No miscellaneous correspondence, new business. The matter of an appointment of Community Reinvestment Area CRA Housing Council member. I believe that is Ms. Scott.
Yes, thank you, and through you. Ordinance 2008-132 authorized the creation of the city's CRA Housing Council. This is a requirement under Ohio Revised Code. The council consists of 5 persons. 2 of those persons are appointed by the mayor, 2 by city council, and 1 through planning commission. Mr. Ken Wells has been serving on this council. His term expired December 31st of 2023. He has expressed interest in continuing to serve, so I'm requesting that planning commission make a vote to either appoint Ken Wells back on the council, or if you choose to seek somebody else, we can have that discussion as well.
And can you repeat Ken's last name, please?
Wells, W-E-L-L-S.
Gotcha. Okay. So I'd like to entertain a motion to appoint Mr. Ken Wells to the Community Reinvestment Area CRA Housing Council as a council member through Planning Commission. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Panowski.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Tedrow. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you, Ms. Scott. There's no old business. Public hearing 2023-001-00105. Hubert Oliver, Legacy 34, 460 Cleveland Street, Elyria, Ohio, 44035, requesting conditional use permit to operate a restaurant. Is there a representative here from that organization that'd like to come and speak, please? Whitney?
It appears they are not present today.
Okay. Then we will table this until which time they can attend. Public hearing 2023-001-00106, Kids Are Us, Inc., 250 Winkle Street, Elyria, Ohio, 44035, requesting a conditional use permit to operate a daycare center. Here, like to speak to that?
Thomas Stringer, 36815 Detroit Avenue, Avon, Ohio, 44011.
Cheryl Carter, 1312 Missouri Avenue, Lorraine, Ohio, 44052.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Can you share with us what you're looking to do here?
I was looking to I would like to reopen the Kids Center. It was a child care center for like 50 years, and during COVID they closed, so I wanted to reopen.
Okay. Staff reports. Mr. Farkas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you. The proponent is requesting a conditional use to accommodate a proposed child care facility and a variance from Elyria Codified Ordinance Section 1148.04 at the former commercial establishment. Note, the site has lost its non-conforming status due to it being non-operational for a long period of time. Staff findings. The site is currently zoned residential 2-household district, the requirements of which can be located in Chapter 1148 of the Codified Ordinance. It is a purpose of a residential 2-household district to establish and maintain high-quality areas within the city for 2-household dwellings with high population density to preserve the existing residential neighborhoods characterized by both single and 2-household residences. The principally permitted uses are as follows. Educational institutions, group homes regulated per 113710, non-commercial recreation, religious places of worship, single household dwelling units, 2-household dwelling units. Permitted accessory uses are as follows. Any use customary incidental to the permitted use, home occupations as regulated in section 113711, and signs per 1174. I've listed for the board's use the conditionally permitted uses per the RTH district, and specifically would like to tune in to the conditional uses under 1148.04D, which asks childcare facilities provided the following conditions substantially exist. Number one, 30,000 square feet of land, 175-foot setbacks, etc. Page 2. I've listed the non-conforming uses as well for the board's use in regards to what our intent is per the zoning, specifically in regards to trying to reopen something that is basically put in, not meeting any of the requirements. And lastly, my recommendations. I have listed the requirements of section 1148.04, conditionally uses permitted per RTH, on page 1 of the report for the board's use, as each item 1 through 8 should be carefully considered by the commission and or council in order to determine if the following requirements substantially exist. It should be noted that an accurate site plan was not submitted with the application responding to items 1 through 8 of the conditional use requirements. Without the specifics, I am unable to determine the severity of the proposal in its current location. If the board decides to move forward with a vote, they would do so blindly and without all the required data, ultimately reinitiating the nonconforming use and approving multiple unknown variances for the site. After considering the above items, staff recommends the petition be denied due to the multiple unknowns and the potential adverse effects of the surrounding residential homes for the items listed herein. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Farkas. Any other input? Ms. Scott from,
No further comment.
Mr. Schneider from engineering?
No comments.
The Chief Fire Marshal?
Through the Ohio Fire Code and the Family and Job Services, they require annual inspections of the premise, the daycare. When last occupied, there were no fire code violations noted. As they mentioned, it's been vacant for a few years. We have not been in to inspect it. So should you move forward, we would require a special inspection to ensure the building is up to code. Thank you.
Thank you, Assistant Chief. Mr. Farkas, was there an inspection, I will think not, but was there inspection from the building department in regards to this as well?
If approved, yes, it will trigger the special inspection, assuring all life safety items are up to speed.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from the committee? For the record, if I may interrupt, for the record, Ms. Trimble, please note that Mr. Aden has arrived. Any comments from the, yes, Mr. Battle?
Have this place ever been inspected before?
Assistant Chief, was there an inspection to your record of anything prior to 2020 when the building was open?
I believe there was. It's an annual inspection that's required to ensure they get a license. Every year it has to be renewed. So an inspection, life safety inspection is performed. Any deficiencies would have to be corrected in order for them to be licensed, and they were licensed.
Okay, thank you. Any other members from the committee?
Yes, Mr. Farkas, you indicated that no site plan has been submitted. Would we presume if one was submitted, it would address the 8 concerns that you have highlighted as information unknown at this point? Would that be included in a normal site plan?
Through you, Chair, to Chris. If the site plan was provided, it most likely will reveal multiple variances needed due to the compact location of the site as listed in the requirements for setbacks. Obviously, this structure was there for many years. It doesn't meet at a glance 2/3 of our requirements.
To Ms. Carter, is there a plan out there that you have? Is there a reason why there has been no site plan submitted at this time?
A plan to, of the building,
Yes, ma'am.
where the building sits? Yes, we have, a plan, this one. The, I have, this is, was it submitted? we have the map of the building, the, location, the, dimensions of the building, of the, every room.
Does this constitute a site plan? This was included in the application.
Mr. Farkas, would you like to comment on what the building department is looking for as well?
Mr. Chair, through you, what the proponent is indicating was their floor plan. That is not a site plan. What we're looking for is an actual dimensions of the property line boundaries, the distances of the building from those boundaries. The conditional use requires dimensions of the driveway, so we know where parking is going to take place. None of that information was provided.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from the proponent?
Well, able to supplement the application with the site plan and that so that the site plan heard before moving forward with a vote.
To the proponent, I don't know, at least from my standpoint, that I'm against this project. There's just additional information that needs to be had through our building department and our fire department that I would request prior to taking a vote. I'm willing to table this so it stays on our agenda so that you could come back either at the February meeting or the March meeting so that we can have the proper documentation and information submitted so that our fire department and building department can make a proper recommendation to this committee.
That would be fine if we could be on the agenda for the next meeting, please.
We can make that available for the February meeting, provided that within the proper time frame that the information is submitted to the building department, and then Mr. Farkas will get it out to our committee as well as the fire department for review, so we can have that discussion at the February meeting.
Fair enough.
We can put you on there.
How far in advance of the next meeting would that need to be submitted for?
Mr. Farkas? Mr. Farkas, how soon would you want that information to get it out to us with your comments?
Mr. Chair, through you, ASAP, as the review undoubtedly will trigger more needs for variances once I know exactly what's going on. Other than just a blanket variance request that was asked, this will now fine-tune what exactly the board is going to grant.
And again, if you can get us that as soon as possible, again, we're willing to work with you. If we're not ready to go February, we can certainly keep you on the agenda for March. But we're willing to work with you, but we want to make sure we have the proper documentation information prior to moving forward.
Understood.
Okay, fair enough?
Fair enough.
We'll put you on for the February meeting, provided the information is. If you need additional time, you can reach out to the Planning Commission Secretary, and we'll make sure that we keep you moving forward.
Fair enough.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item on our agenda for public hearing is public hearing 2023-001-00123, Lojesco LLC, 827 Cleveland Street, Elyria, Ohio, request for a rezone of parcel number 062501010106 from HI Heavy Industrial District to BG Business General District. Is someone here as a proponent for that?
I did receive an email this morning that they will not be here to attend the meeting.
Okay. Mr. Craig, is this something we should have somebody here for, considering what we're dealing with here, or do we want to table that till the next meeting?
It's up to the chair. If you've got questions, if the committee's got questions for them, then you may want to have somebody here, give them an opportunity to be here. They were provided with an opportunity to be here today, so you could move forward.
Then I will, just like we did the previous one without somebody here, table this until the February meeting, and I'll have the Planning Commission Secretary reach out to them. Next public hearing is 2023-001-00121, Mercy Health Cancer Center, 41201 Shadden Road, Elyria, Ohio, 44035, requesting a variance to allow a second and third wall sign on their building. Is there a proponent here for that as well? Please come forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
Ryan Brady, 1721 Hancock Street, Sandusky, Ohio.
Okay. Please share with us your reason for the variance.
So this is for the Mercy Health Cancer Center there in the at the interchange of 90 and 57. They're currently doing a large-scale renovation to that building, including all new siding and exterior fascia work, and part of that work was a sign package. Specifically, what we're asking for today is part of this renovation. During the process, Mercy Health was approached by a donor family to name the cancer center. And so part of the agreement between the healthcare system and the donor is naming rights for the facility. So what you're seeing here on both the southeast and the northeast elevation corner there is additional signage recognizing the donor. So the style of signage is internally lit channel letters that are mounted on a raceway. And that's on both elevations. The south elevation faces Route 90 and it's most visible. That northeast elevation really isn't visible from the road, but it is visible when you take the access road in off Shadden Drive. The two variances we're asking for, one is the number of signs on the building. These two signs would be sign 2 and sign 3, in addition to the large Mercy Health channel letters on the south elevation. And then there's a square footage variance as well. This property is zoned planned office development, and the wall signage allowance is, I think it's like 6 square feet total. So very small relative to what traditionally has been allowed on this building in the past. I guess I would note too that in the past, when it was the UH Seidman Cancer Center partnership, there was signage on these elevations. And then most recently when, with their partnership with Ohio State and the James Cancer Center, also had signage on both elevations. So in the past, there's been signage on these elevations as well.
Thank you. Mr. Farkas?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Whitney, could you put my report up, please? I've listed on the memo the current sign proposals and each individual sign. Per our sign ordinance, it limits the amount of signs permitted per tenant space and the amount of signage permitted. As you can see on wall sign number 1, they're proposing 59 square feet, and our code only permits 6. Now, they do have some existing signs on the structure that are non-conforming. They were there prior to, and the intent of the code is to not make it worse. Moving forward, these signage, they do meet with the spirit and intent of the code in regards to getting the advertising out. They do conform to the colors, if I'm not mistaken. The only concern I have are the number of signs and the size. So I'm going to jump right to my recommendation, of which says I am in favor of the request, but I just want the board to know that when these kind of requests come in, let's say they come back 6 months from now and want to add another sign, I will be opposed to that because we're getting too much, too many, too big. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Farkas. Ms. Scott from Community Development?
Through you, the proposed signage was compliant with the design review guidelines.
Thank you. Any comment from Mr. Schneider, Engineering?
No comments.
Fire Department?
No comment.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from the committee?
I have one through you, Chair. How do the proposed or requested signage compare to the current signage that's on the building or most recently was there?
In terms of size, square footage?
And illumination, both, please.
So right now, the signs that are on the two elevations that we're proposing new signage for, the existing signs are non-illuminated. They're just inch-thick acrylic letters. So that would be a difference. These signs are lit, so you'll be able to see them at nighttime. In terms of size, I don't have the specifics in terms of size. I could tell you that it would be like, I think it's pretty close in terms of you just looking at the building. but I don't have the exact square footage of what is there versus what's being proposed, but I would tell you it's similar in nature in terms of size.
Comparable?
Yeah.
Okay, but
Yeah.
some are illuminated and now with this proposal, whereas they weren't before.
Correct.
Are those illuminated signs facing the highway, or are they facing your neighbors in the surrounding area? My concern being any type of light pollution. Are there any concerns there based on the way these are structured?
I mean, the south-facing elevation faces the highway, so no different than the existing large Mercy Health letters that are on the south elevation. The northeast elevation really won't be visible outside of when you're on the property. There's a heavily wooded area there between, it technically faces northeast, so it's really facing, I guess, 57, but like I said, there's a heavily wooded area on the property that would essentially screen any illumination from crossing that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion from the committee? Seeing as none at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the variance as submitted.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Panowski,
Second.
second by Mr. Battle. Any further discussion? Seeing as none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. I believe there is a second variance on this, or did we cover that? With the, for the additionals, we did cover that on the new proposed signs. Okay.
The
Very
second
good.
one needs to be voted on as well.
We have to vote on the second one as well. So, hearing 2023-001-00122, request for variance for the allowance of additional square footage for the new proposed wall signs, at 41201 Shadden Road. We had discussion on that, so I'll entertain a motion to approve that as well.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Aden. Have a second? Second by Mr. Tedrow. Any further discussion? Seeing as none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next hearing is 001-00109, Villas of the Valley, 1100 Gulf Road, Elyria, Ohio, 44035. Request an extension of the conditional use permit for a proposed residential planned unit development, R-PUD, in a residential multi-household low-density district, R-MHL. Planning Commission granted the initial request on 9/20 of 22. Is there a proponent here, please? Please state your name and addresses for the record.
Road, Rocky River, Ohio.
Very good. Please proceed.
Our other partner who you normally see, Dave, is in transportation problems trying to get back here, and his plane is late, but Angelo and I will be able to kind of fit in for him. First of all, I'd like to welcome all the new members and congratulate everybody who's here. And this has been a 2-year process from when we started. On December 5th, we had our last hearing here, and we were informed that our conditional use permit had expired from a 1-year period. The 2 conditions of the conditional use permit was, first of all, construction had to begin within that year period, which did not happen. The second condition was we were to pull a building permit, which we couldn't do without your approval. So we were kind of stuck in the middle. So everybody recommended that we go back and just redo, to clear the air, redo it and just ask for the conditional use permit to be reapproved. And that's first item that's here today. And what I will do in the second part, I'll do a quick education for people who weren't here before of the project. But right now, we'd like to move forward with the first piece for the public hearing, and that's extend the conditional use permit for another year. And any questions? I'm here to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Corn. Just for the record, this is not an extension, this is actually a new conditional use permit. So, this will be completely new. Although I used the word extension, it's in that as well. It is not an extension, it is a new conditional use permit. As it was submitted. Is there any discussion? We'll go with Mr. Farkas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. This request is to include the conditional use and a blanket variance. For the board's use, they are proposing down on their request and application submittals, particularly case number 2023, last three digits 098, the request for the subdivision itself. I ask that the second part of this request for the driveway variance be held until first a decision is made on the actual subdivision, because why grant a variance if the subdivision's a no-go? So I'll read my report and then we can jump, if it's okay, with Mark.
Mr. Farkas, so you're saying items 108, 110, and 111 on the docket should be held off until 97 is or is not approved?
Mr. Chair, 108, 110, 111, and 099.
Okay, thank you. Proceed.
Request, conditional use. The proponent is requesting a conditional use to accommodate proposed residential plan unit development in a residential multi-household low-density district. Note, the current conditional use has expired as it was granted by Planning Commission on 9/2022, case number 2022-0010088, and approved by council on December 6th of 22. Staff findings. It should also be noted that the conditional use was granted 9/20, et cetera, and approved by council for the proposed residential plan unit development in a multi-household low-density district. The conditional use is near expiration per 11/35/05, and I've listed the condition requirements for our ordinance pertaining to a conditional use and how it expires. I've listed for the board's use an RMHL requirement. It goes into the density, the requirements, width, et cetera. Continuing on, the permitted uses are as follows: boarding, lodging houses, educational institutions, group homes as regulated in 113710, multi-household dwelling units, non-commercial recreation, religious places of worship, 2 household dwelling units. The conditionally permitted uses are as follows: plan unit development, residential plan unit developments, of which they're pursuing, multi-regulations required 1 through 8 not listed. That's for the board's use to save space, nursing homes, et cetera. I've listed the requirements of Chapter 1135 conditional use, specifically 1135-03 of the codified ordinance, which requires that the following be considered by the Commission and Council when a request is received for conditional use approval. A, proposed use will properly located in relation to the land, use, and street plan of the city. The proposed use is necessary to serve the community needs. The proposed use is adequately served by essential public facilities and services. The location, design, and operation of the proposed use at the specific location will not unduly discourage or interfere with the surrounding uses and properties. And the proposed use meets the specific development conditions as specified in the regulations for the district in which it is located. Variance request for parking. Plan sheet 19 depicts a standard driveway width of 18 feet at all of the homes proposed, as many of the lots in the subdivision do not comply with the maximum driveway width requirements of section 1175-03, which is 1/3 the area of the front yard. A blanket variance is needed. This will apply to the entire subdivision. Staff recommendations. I am in favor of the petition as the conditional use request is incidental or is identical to the past submittal, and the variance request is acceptable contingent the conditional use and separate subdivision submittal are granted and passed first without revisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Farkas. Ms. Scott?
No comment.
Engineer Schneider?
Engineering has no comments in regards to this variance.
Thank you. Fire Marshal?
No comments from fire.
Comments or questions from the committee?
I just have one.
Mr. Aiden?
So why is there a variance needed on a parcel that requires a narrower driveway, I'm assuming. Is it because we're trying to put too many units in a certain space?
So if I understand, Mr. Farkas, through you, I know we had an issue with Four Seasons in the width of the driveway. Is this very similar?
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is almost identical as the proposed garage width and the driveway proposed. The proposed subdivision is more compact than your typical residential subdivision. So the driveways that we consider standard at 16 for this particular proposal are too big. They propose to go a little bit larger to allow for the accommodation of the overhead door width, and most commonly, as other subdivisions, people open the door, they don't want to step in the grass. So they want that larger driveway.
Mr. Hayden, does that answer your question? It does. Okay, great. Any other comments from the committee? In regards to the reason why it expired, because there was no definitive movement on this project, what was the holdup on it? I know you mentioned the building department, but there's a lot of other things that go into play prior to even submitting to the building department. So, Mr. Corner, can you answer as to why we're a year in and there's really been no movement on it?
Actually, we started this complete process about 2 years ago in December, and working with engineering, fire, and with zoning. This was not an easy project. You know, it's not just a subdivision sitting in a cornfield. There were many factors involved with there. There are floodplain issues that we had to satisfy with engineering. There were secondary accesses we had to conform with questions from fire to satisfy their needs. The zoning issues from the law director were all issued also. One of the things that occurred, multiple meetings we had with planning, but it just was a period of time to get things done. We would come back at the next meeting and have our proposal submitted for all the questions that happened prior to that, and there was always new things that would come up. It was just a process that took time. It's not an easy project by any means, and we had to get all the conditions satisfied with everybody, and it just took that long to get done. And we didn't delay it. We didn't stop moving at it. We kept moving and trying to get the approval. And, we discovered December 5th that the year had gone by like that. And the day that we were supposed to vote on December 5th, we were informed that the year had passed. So as we talked with the law department, they felt it was better just to let's go ahead and get it reapproved, just to clear the air on it. So that's why we're here today.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other proponents? Are there any other proponents? Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Mr. Oswald, step forward, name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, everybody. Kenny Oswald, 237 Pepperdine Drive, also councilman, 4th Ward, where this is happening. I do want to see development, okay? I want to see safe development. I feel like we're getting ahead of the game without some answers. One of my huge answers that my residents want to know is that this is going to be safe getting in and out of this development. I'm not hearing the safe route, which we're talking about having a turning lane. I'm hearing mixed opinions on what's going to happen. Oh, we were going to say that if we get so many houses started, then we will get a turning lane. Who's going to pay for the turning lane? I've heard questions asked, well, is the city going to pay for it? Is it going to be a TIF that's going to pay for it? Is it a grant that's going to pay for it? Okay, so what I'm worried about, not just our 4th Ward residents, but the people that drive through there are going to be at harm's way when we have construction going on and you've got speeders right now going down Gulf Road, okay, and they're heading north. And you've got a truss company that's delivering 40-foot trusses and they're parked at the bottom of that hill. And all of a sudden, it's wintertime, it's slippery, and that car comes around that corner, hits the brakes, and next thing you know, we have a fatality. That's a safety issue for me. It's not after we get so many houses. It's in the beginning. And what's going to happen is everybody's going to tell us, oh, we're going to do this to get the turning lane, and we're going to do that. And these houses are going to get started, and hopefully everything continues and it takes off. But what if it doesn't? Then we're left with some homes up there. We don't have our turning lane, and we haven't stuck to our guns again, and we've let this company take care of this. Now, we know it's an issue. Just get it done. You tell me that you're going to put that turning lane in before you get those houses started, and you've got my blessing. And I'm sure everybody else, other than the fact that some of them don't want the development, their blessing would be that, yes, do it, because we're going to be a little more safe over there, okay? That's the big issue. And I have not heard an exact answer on how that's going to be. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Oswald. Mr. Schneider, can you address the turning lane? I know there's some minimum requirements in regards to the turning lane, in regards to the number of houses.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. In regards to this subdivision, the city is requiring a turning lane to be installed. The number we went with was 80 homes or units. The original traffic study showed that a turning lane wasn't even required, but we felt that it's best to have a turning lane installed as part of the project. The city has no, as far as I know, any intent of building the turning lane for the developer. As of right now, it's 100% on the developer, as far as I know. But the 80 homes was the cutoff limit, and the way the developer has scheduled his project, he shows a total of 61 units being built in phase 1, and when phase 2 goes in, it would exceed the 80 home limit. Therefore, the turn lane would be required as part of phase 2.
If I'm not mistaken, I think Mr. Oswald's concern was waiting until phase 2 to mandate that turning lane versus having it mandated as a part of the initial project. Was the understanding?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Okay. Fire Marshal, any comments?
We know that when there is an accident, fire department will be there. It's a road now that sees its share of incidents, and a turning lane would be better to have sooner than later. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Oswald.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would like to see it happen before we start building houses in there. Thank you.
Are there any other proponents or opponents? Excuse me, opponents.
Hi, my name is Mark Mathis. I reside at 1730 Gulf Road. This is my 45th winter living on the north side of Elyria, on Gulf Road or very near Gulf Road. I've traveled that area many times, every week. I'm concerned that there is not adequate space for a turning lane at the bottom of Gulf Road. Coming north on Gulf Road, down the hill, where 35 is the speed limit, but 40 miles, 45, 50 miles an hour is not uncommon. The intersection of the access road into the present golf course is really not visible coming down the hill. And I'm concerned that the turning lane needs to be installed before development happens on that property. I'm in favor of development. I have no opinion on the density of the development back there. I'm not going to be living there. But I'm concerned with the safety of people traveling on Gulf Road, which is a busy main road in Elyria. That is my main concern, and that the turning lane needs to be installed before development happens. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schneider, is that Gulf Road wide enough at that point to put that turning lane in, sufficient to engineering?
At the way it currently stands, no. The way the developer is shown on his plans to correct that is to move the road partially into toward the golf course to add that extra width that's required.
So there would need to be
As well as,
additional work on the
Yeah, oh, yes.
developer's side to put that lane in.
there's a lot more engineering that needs to be involved as far as what is needed. We have a preliminary, it's not in any way, shape, or form engineering plans. It could require the ditch being culverted. There's a number of items that'll be relocated, utilities, guardrail. So we don't have those final details yet, but those are things that will come later on that we will review.
Okay, thank you. Are there any, let me get to the other opponents, Mr. Corn, and then we'll come back to you. Are there any other opponents to the project? Any other opponents? Any other opponents? Mr. Corna?
Yeah, I'd just like to address, part of this 2 years of studying, we had to have a traffic study done by a professional traffic engineer, to determine, if and when a turning lane would be required. The actual traffic study came out and said that the year 2035, there may be conditions on Gulf Road as traffic increases where you would require a turning lane. As of today, there is no requirement from them that need to be put in today. We've worked with the engineering to decide that we would get the turning lane put in within the first 80 units of the total 224. So we've been able to work those out, but we did have a professional engineering study done as to what the conditions were and when that turning lane would be required. So just adding to that we're prepared to move forward with what that study states and what the engineering department recommends. Thank you.
Mr. Corna, has there been a study done on what was this study that you had done, was that a part of what needed to be done to put that lane in on your part?
Yes, we had a preliminary engineering plan completed of what we proposed the turning lane to be. That has been submitted way back. We've been looking at it. It's not final details like things like culverts, but it does have us moving the turning lane onto the golf course property. We don't have to go up the hill where the work was just done to widen that road and fix the culverts.
Has that been submitted to the engineer's office?
Yes,
Mr. Schneider?
Just the preliminary has been. It's
Okay.
included in the overall plans, but not the detailed engineering.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Mr. Corna?
That's all. Thank you.
Anything from the committee? Mr. Craig?
Thanks. Through the chair, it may be somewhat premature to rule on the conditional use here, as pointed out by the staff, without the subdivision submittal, without us having those plans, without the subdivision being approved. It may be premature to approve this conditional use. We do recognize, however, that this conditional use was previously approved and it has expired. I wanted to make sure that was clear on the record through this office. They were informed you can't renew this, you can't extend it. This is a new application, so we're starting over from this application. Second, through you to the engineer, if I may, there was supposed to be a performance bond in place prior to any construction activities. Does the city engineer have a copy of a performance bond for this project?
As of right now, we don't have an agreement, so we have no performance bond.
And then, if I may, through the chair, one more item. We talked about this financing for the subdivision, and there was some discussion about would this be financed by the city? Would this be financed through a TIF? If there's some intention for a TIF financing, the city would need to enter into a development agreement. And it's my understanding there hasn't been any discussion yet as far as a development agreement.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Craig. Anybody else from the committee?
Yeah, I had a question for engineering. John, could traffic be supported by just red lights with arrows rather than going to road construction and a turning lane being added? You know what I mean? If we had a light down there?
I would not recommend a light be installed at the bottom of that hill.
Okay. Yeah.
For safety reasons.
Well, I am a proponent of what Mr. Oswald was stated. I would like to see the design of the turning lane. I would like to see a turning lane placed there prior to the 80-unit development, not waiting to the middle of the project. There's a lot of things that could go wrong in the midst of that, beginning of that project. The truck traffic going down through there, turning left, turning right. I think there's additional information that needs to be submitted to engineering in regards to that turning lane. We have the issues that Mr. Craig brought up. Mr. Craig, are we in a position to vote on this, table this? I know it's my decision as the chair, but from a legal standpoint?
From a legal standpoint, you're in a position to vote on it, but you could also table it if you would like.
Okay. Mr. Corna, Mr. Farkas, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair, if I may, just for a point of order, in order to have a subdivision, we must first approve the conditional use. Just the idea of, do we want to move forward to the next step of saying, here's our proposed subdivision. If the board chooses to move forward, the vote on this particular case would be, do we even want this conditional use for the proposed subdivision? If it's a yes, we would then march on to the next case, which is 097, for the actual subdivision itself. That's when most of these key elements would come into play in regards to requirements of what we're looking for, et cetera. Then we can go into the required variances of that subdivision. So I know it's a little bit out of order on our agenda, but that, for me, an experience of doing this, we would start with conditional use and then march on to the actual subdivision and then the variance for the open space, et cetera.
So, Mr. Craig, if we table 109, the following one, 097, would table in reference to that as well?
If we table the conditional use, then that's a prerequisite to the other items.
Okay. Then I'm going to table 2023-001-00109 until there's an actual finalized plan for the turning lane put in prior to any construction or development down there that is submitted to the satisfaction of our building department, engineering department, and fire department. And at that time, we will keep this on the agenda as a tabled item until such time as that is submitted to the proper people. And that will also include tabling 2023-001-00097 as well, 98, 99, relative to those, to this hearing. Is there any other discussion from the committee? If not, we will table that item as directed. Thank you, Mr. Corna. If you would submit that information when you get it to the proper channels, then we'll take a look at it at that juncture.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. 2023-100, is that on our agenda, or is that a part of this as well? Mr. Farkas?
Yes, Mr. Chair, it was part of the subject.
2023-001-00100 will also be tabled as described.
I'm sorry, I just read that.
That's multifamily.
That is not. That is a different subdivision.
Different one.
My
Okay.
apologies.
Then the next hearing is 2023-001-001-00, request for a variance for proposed multifamily townhouses located on the proposed Palmer Court. Shall have a 28-foot rear yard setback. The variance requested that 11-foot of the rear yard be parcel 0625171101029 and 9 foot to be dedicated as a permanent rear yard setback easement at parcel numbers 0625167000006 and 062517000-033. Are there any proponents here for this? Are there any proponents? Any proponents?
I apologize.
Any opponents?
Somebody makes a vote.
Opponents? We will table this item as no one is here for that. Number 8, Planning Commission cases, there were none. Number 9, summary reports of the design review application have been approved by the design review staff. Ms. Scott?
Thank you, and through you. So Mr. Farkas and I are going to be putting together a report, almost essentially like an annual report to inform the commission of all of the cases that we have approved at the staff level in 2023. And I also wanted to take this opportunity to ask Planning Commission if you would like all of these individual reports that we approve listed individually to you on a monthly basis, or how you would like to proceed with that, to keep you in the loop as to what we're approving at the staff level.
Ms. Scott, what was the procedure prior?
Through you, the reports approved by staff used to be on the agenda. They have not been in some time. So I just wasn't certain if we wanted to continue to leave them off of the agenda and give that information to you in another way, or if you just wanted to keep them on the agenda and then we can report out at the monthly meetings.
Well, since number 9 is a standing item on the agenda, my recommendation would be is you submit those to the commission as an addendum to the agenda, and then we can look at them as needed, and if they need to be brought up at the meeting or a question, we can do it at that time. It does not need to be a part of the agenda itself, but as an addendum. Staff and commission reports. I would like to say this. I'd like to welcome Mr. Craig, who is the Administrative Legal Counsel to my far left. He will be joining the Planning Commission as that position, as well as Safety Service Director Panowski will be joining us, and I think Ms. Calvert, for her work over the last few years, she will be available to speak, but Mr. Panowski will be joining us. Also, I want to thank Ms. Trimble for her work over the last year or so as the Commission Secretary. We will be appointing Mary Tomsky as the Planning Commission Secretary moving forward. So that'll take place. She'll be overseeing that, working with Ms. Trimble in the transition for the next meeting. Is there any other reports from the Commission? Any other reports from staff? Mr. Craig?
Just as a point of order to the chair, that final request for variance 2023-001-00100, it is part of that application for Villas of the Valley development.
Okay, so that will be tabled as a part of the original conditional use permit for that project. My understanding is we may need a special meeting yet this month, and that, so the Planning Commission meeting members, I'll have Ms. Tomke reach out in regards to that. And if there's no other items for this meeting, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Aden.
Second.
Second by Mr. Battle. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Meeting adjourned. Next official date will be February 6, 2024. Thank you.